Welcome everyone to our second virtual summer institute. My name is Tracy Chase, and I am the Adult Education Manager for Arrowhead Economic Opportunity Agency, better known as AEOA.
And I'm Kirsten Collins. I'm the Literacy Services Director at Literacy Minnesota.
And I want to quickly just go through a couple of things before I hand it over to Kirsten to do some housekeeping, but I want to thank everyone for stepping up to make this conference one to remember. First, I have to say thanks to the MDE. We've been having some really crazy times recently, and the support and guidance that MDE gives us. We are fortunate to have such a great responsive team at the Department of Ed. And this year, because we are doing a virtual conference, we could only have so many proposals, so many sessions, and our outpouring of amazing work, it blew my mind. And I have to say, we had more than double of what we could actually implement. And so thank you to all who submitted proposals. You all did phenomenal work. And next year we'll have an opportunity to be in person. So please make sure to be sending in proposals for next year too. We will have an opportunity to have more. We've got a great keynote speaker, and because we are virtual, we are able to pull somebody from Maryland, and at 2 this afternoon, definitely tap into it. It's going to be a very interesting presentation. I have to say thank you to the planning committee, Atlas, and everyone else who is willing to step up, the hosts, the co-hosts, and all of that. Without you guys, Summer Institute would not happen. They made my job as chair so easy, and the work that is put into it, I appreciate each and every one of you. I have to say a special thank you to Carla Vian. She has such knowledge and poise, and she's amazing. And we're very fortunate to have her be part of the committee. And last but not least, I do want to say thank you to the whole field for attending. You guys, the work that you do make adult education in Minnesota the best. So thank you and have a great conference. And now, Kirsten.
Thanks, Tracy. So I just have a couple of housekeeping things to go over with everybody. All sessions are going to be recorded and they'll be available after the conference. You'll receive a link to an unlisted YouTube site where you can access the sessions. Just a little plug for our hospitality events. We have some really great events this year. Due to popular demand, we're bringing back bingo. So tonight there'll be 3 different rooms and you can do bingo, crafting, or trivia. Those will be open from 5 to 8. We also brought back Jennifer Hildebrandt to do a restorative movement class because we got such positive feedback from that last year. So that will be tomorrow in the morning at 9 during lunch and then at the close of the conference. We have a lot of great poster sessions today, so you can access those at any time, at any point during the conference. We have 30 poster sessions, and you can just access these from the SCED app. There's topics like distance learning, digital literacy, language, math, technology tips, and program management. So please remember to take a look at some of these. There's some really great sessions. I also wanted to remind folks that we have vendor sessions that are on your SCED app. So you can hear what's new from organizations like TABE and Burlington English. A couple of fun highlights, the NROC project, a nonprofit focused on new models of digital content development, distribution, and use. We'll have one. There's also a vendor session around a new standards-based student-centered ESL curriculum from Literacy Minnesota. So please check out those vendor sessions if you have a chance. Last, I want to remind folks that the LAN annual meeting is at 4 p.m. And we encourage all land members to attend and find out what your professional organization has been working on this year, and find out how you can get involved in 2022. Remember that land not only facilitates the Summer Institute, but your land membership fees also go towards supporting the ABE lobbyists to advocate for us. So please attend the land annual meeting at 4 today. We look forward to seeing you there. And now I'd like to pass things off to our colleagues at the Minnesota Department of Education. So please join me in welcoming Minnesota State Director Brad Hasskamp.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Carla, and all of Literacy Action Network for your amazing work at doing this Summer Institute, especially doing this virtually. Today, we at the Minnesota Department of Education really want to share a little bit about our adult education system. And let's explore where our system has been before, up to today, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And just note, during this session, we will be giving some brief updates and sharing the story of our system over the last couple of last year to this year and beyond. Unfortunately, though, we will not have time for questions and won't have time to allow people to raise questions or unmute themselves during the session, but we encourage you to contact us after the session when we're happy to share, answer your questions and talk with you then. So some of our key messages today: we want to make sure that you feel truly welcomed and that we've introduced ourselves as a team. And then let's tell the story of where we've been and where we are. And then let's talk and explore about where we're going today. So let's continue with some introductions. You can see here our Minnesota Adult Education team, and we'll give a chance for each person to introduce themselves individually. So I'll kick us off. My name is Brad Hasskamp. I'm the Adult Education Supervisor, the State Adult Education Director. My pronouns are he, him, and his. You can see my email address here. Some things you can ask me about: adult education policy, high Cs or high school equivalency assessments, GED, the 2021-22 additional ABE funding, and accountability issues. I've been at the Minnesota Department of Education since 2010. And one of my special notes, since last year's conference, I have two new adorable roommates who you might see running behind me throughout the session, April and Grayson, two new cats who were found abandoned on the side of the road. And I've been very happy to take them in and so thankful for them. I'm going to turn it over to Astrid.
Thank you, Brad. Good morning, everyone. I am Astrid Liden. I'm the Professional Development Specialist on our team. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. You can ask me a variety of questions. I'm happy to answer any questions about professional development, either opportunities at the state level or supporting you in developing professional development at the local level. I also am able to answer questions about content standards and distance learning. I've been at MDE since 2006, and this is my pandemic pup, Joey, who we got last spring, and he keeps me smiling throughout the day and makes sure that I get up and away from my computer, which is very, very happy to be here with you all today.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you. My name is Jodi Versaw. I am the Program Quality Specialist on the MDE team. My pronouns are she, her. A few things you can ask me about are the annual ABE application and tables that are submitted on June 1st every year, the 5-year narratives that every consortium has to do every 5 years, and also standard adult diploma. I've team since 2016, so about 5 years now. And on just a note about me, I, like all of us, I think the pandemic, has caused some changes in my life, and a couple of things that have become permanent changes are I go out for walks every day, pretty much without exception now. And I've turned into a little bit of a sunset chaser. I've found some good sunset spots around the Twin Cities. So this is an image that I took. That is Lake Hiawatha, which is about a 12-minute walk from my front door, and I am often there at sunset time. So that's me.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Julie Dincau. I'm the transition specialist, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And you can ask me about the IELCE grant, about WIOA partnerships and guidance, and about anything transitions regarding employment transitions to employment training or post-secondary. I've been at the Department of Education since 2010, and I am now enjoying the cherries from my small little plant. I actually have a garden and I enjoy gardening.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Jodi, and thank you, Astrid. I want to also make sure that we introduce one of the other members of our team, Alice Smith. Lucky for her, she is on vacation this week, earning a well-deserved some time for relaxation. She is our GED record specialist, and many of you know her and know the amazing work that she does. She knows a lot about GED history in the state of Minnesota and GED records and age waivers. She has been at the Minnesota Department of Education since 1980, and we're very happy for her that she is looking forward to retirement, just as scared as we are for what that means for us. As many of you know, Alice is just so amazing, and she is tireless at doing some outstanding work with finding GED records and processing hundreds and hundreds of requests per week. And so we're very thankful for the time-sensitive work that she does. She really, truly helps people, hundreds of people a week. And so we're thankful for Alice on our team. I also am very excited to announce that we have a new team member joining us, and that is Neil Allard. Their pronouns are they and them. They will be joining us as our adult education, communications, and administrative support specialist on Monday, August 30th. We are so excited to have Neil join our team. And just so you know, we're not done hiring. We are also going to be posting within the next couple months an adult education accountability and high school fluency specialist to our team next. So look forward for that position if you are interested. At this point, though, I also want to encourage some of you, if you are new to your role, if you are new to adult education, please introduce yourselves in the chat now. Share with us your name, your program, and your role in the chat. We're very excited to have you here. We're very excited to have you join adult education. Adult education is such a field, and it's such a collaborative field where you can work together and truly make a positive impact on the lives of learners and a statewide impact on our entire system. Your contributions really make our field, make our system better. So please, if you are new to the field, if you're new to your role, please just introduce yourselves in the chat at this time. And I'd also encourage you, if you are new, there's a couple things you can check out online. There's the ABE Foundation's information on the Atlas website. I'd encourage you to check that out and check out some of the resources for new ABE staff. And you'll see that I put the link to the foundations in the chat. So continue to introduce yourselves if you are new to the field, new in your role. Great to see you, Stephanie. Excellent. Welcome, Lori. We're very happy to see you. At this moment, we also want to take a moment to honor Todd Wagner. Todd Wagner is our former state adult education director. Todd worked at MDE for more than 40 years. Unfortunately, Todd died by suicide in May. Todd was such a kind soul. We saw this quote from Nelson Mandela, and it truly epitomized Todd and the way he lived. Nelson Mandela said, "If you want the cooperation of humans around you, you must make them feel they are important. And you do that by being genuine and humble." And that is so true to how Todd lived. And I hear you, Tom. I miss Todd each and every day. This also is a good reminder for all of us to please keep your mental health as a priority and routinely check in with your family, with your friends, and with your colleagues. It takes courage and strength to seek help. If you or someone you know is struggling, please reach out for help. And you'll see in the chat that that we've shared some mental health resources, and thank you to Panda for having those mental health resources available for all of us and publicly posted. I know many times it's thoughtful to do a moment of silence, but if you all knew Todd, you know Todd never was a person for silence. He loved to share stories. So if you'd like to, if you have any fun stories to share with Todd or any memories you'd like to share at this point, instead of a moment of silence, I encourage you to share a memory of Todd in the chat at this time. I see, yeah, Aaron, and many of you may have, like Aaron, had Todd Wagner as your assessment professor. Yes, absolutely. Okay. I think we have some folks that are unmuted, so please double check to make sure that you are muted if you are not muted. And we encourage you to still share any stories or memories you have of Todd in the chat. And I do, all of us at the Minnesota Department of Education really want to take a moment to thank you. Thank you for serving learners. It seems maybe trite to say, but this year has truly been one of the most challenging years for us, both professionally and personally. We are inspired at the Minnesota Department of Education by your hard work, and we continue to work harder, knowing how much you are striving to serve adult learners, how you're adapting, how you're learning, how you're experimenting, and how you're innovating along the way. And we really take those lessons to heart. Thank you for your amazing work. Thank you for your persistence to ensure that students' needs and their goals are met. And I know that we want to do more than just thank you. And we want to make sure that we truly take some time to reflect and we take some time to support one another. So we'll continue to share a little bit more about that along the way. But our field is what it is because of all of the contributions that each and every one of you have made. For every learner that you have touched, for every learner that you have helped, thank you. Thank you for that work. Thank you for striving for excellence. Thank you for being an adult educator. So let's talk about where we've been. Where have we come over this last year? I have a couple of examples that people shared with us that we'd like to share and bring forward to you. A first example of excellence in adult education and where we've been over this last year is from Adult Options in Education in Hopkins. You can see 3 examples of what they've done over the past year. For example, they have distributed computers and devices to their individual learners, and you can see on the left a picture of that process of all the devices and then doing a drive-by pickup for those devices, and that is excellent. Second, this is also really exciting. Adult Options in Education worked with Hopkins Community Education, and some of their adult learners actually worked with Community Ed to do lessons or free community ed lessons in multiple languages. Here's an example that we have in the center here about a student that did a video series on samosa making with her daughter. How exciting is that? And the third example is with Adult Options in Education, how low and high intermediate students were able to meet with the school superintendent and talk with the superintendent and get a chance to ask questions and engage with the superintendent. I really appreciate Adult Options in Education for sharing these examples of how learners are contributing, how learners are benefiting, and how during this virtual time, how you're helping to make our community stronger and stay connected. And this is some great examples of the work that you are doing. A second example I want to share is from the International Institute of Minnesota. With their College Readiness Academy and English for Work program, they have developed syllabi and gotten faculty approval from Minneapolis College and Metro State for their intermediate and advanced level immigrant and refugee students. Learners completing the courses can earn up to 6 college credits that would satisfy goals 7 and 8, those requirements at Minnesota State. The organization also has formal agreements with 2 colleges to allow students direct entrance into college level reading and college level writing coursework without having to take AccuPlacer or any other placement exams. And they're continuing to work with more colleges, more post-secondary institutions to put more formal referral processes in place. That's outstanding. And my third example that we want to share today is from Rochester. Rochester has an ESL navigator position that primarily is working with low-level ESL adults to develop independent skills related to transportation, nutritional health, financial literacy, and medical health. And you can see some of the real-life skills that they're teaching about how to ride public transportation, learning more about SNAP, having presentations on credit card safety, and medical symptoms triage with Winona State University nursing students. And Rochester is partnering with outside agencies to bring in services for students through this process. And this is funded through a 5-year United Way grant. Excellent work, Rochester. I want to thank Karen Cook, Jitka Sibek, and Elizabeth Fontaine for sharing your programs and your student stories. These are 3 people that step forward when we ask for people to share stories, share innovations. They step forward. So I want to thank Karen, Jitka, and Elizabeth for sharing your stories and letting us share your stories with everyone here today. Also, though, I know that those aren't the only examples of excellence in our adult education field. So if you have a program or a student story or a program innovation that you would like to share, please type it in the chat. We really look forward to seeing your successes, seeing what you're sharing your stories, and hearing what motivates you and what keeps all of us going. So thank you for sharing your stories. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jodi to tell a little bit more about our program year last year.
Thanks, Brad. This is Jodi, and yeah, I have a little bit of data to share with you all about our system. Before I kind of launch into that, I want to acknowledge that it's been really lovely to watch the stories in the chat, particularly about Todd. And for those of you who've been around in the field for a while, you probably remember over the last few years at this point in this Summer Institute session, Todd would often give us data about the field and about the year. And I have a very clear memory of seeing him in front of that room in St. Cloud and always being really interested in the data he had to share. And so yes, it's time to do the numbers. That's exactly it. And I just really feel grateful and honored that I am here today to share some data with you, and I'm very much remembering Todd as I do that. So let's talk a little bit about this last program year, so 2020, 2021. We know it was a year like no other. We know there were a lot of changes and a lot of challenges, and we have come through that year together. So a couple of data points from that year in terms of students that were served in Minnesota adult education. There were just a little under 38,000. So that is down significantly. It's down about 22% from the number of students served in the year prior, so 1920. And in terms of contact hours, there were about 2.2 million contact hours that were generated over the 2021 year. So that's the May to April contact hour counting period. And that was down about 45% from the year before. So I think probably the most interesting thing that these data points tell us is that we know that our system was deeply affected by the pandemic, and we know that clearly there were fewer services provided and bigger challenges about delivering our adult education services to our communities. But it's interesting to note that there was a bigger drop in contact hours than there was in students, which I think sort of holds true from what we are hearing out in the field. We're hearing a lot about students working very hard to stay engaged, and you as ABE staff doing everything possible to continue to engage students, but that because of the limitations placed on all of our system by the pandemic, even those same or not as much reduced number of students really were not generating as many contact hours as before the pandemic. So that was just an interesting sort of big picture story that comes out of some of the data for this year. And then a visual here to kind of help you see the bigger trends around contact hours and how the pandemic and COVID has kind of big picture impacted our system. So if you look at this graph, you'll see in the blue line is the hours month to month before the pandemic. So in the old normal, so the blue line is hours from 1819. So that was our last complete quote unquote normal year. And then if you look at the red line, those are hours from 1920, which you'll see the blue and the red lines really match each other pretty well until the end of the contact hour counting period, until February, March, April. So that sharp decline in the red line is demonstrates to us what happened at the beginning of the pandemic when we all had to shut down everything and weren't able to be in person at all. And then the green line is 2020, 2021. So it's interesting to note that green line, in some ways, the shape of the line does not look entirely dissimilar from the red and blue. So it's interesting that some of the peaks and valleys are at the same point. We did see an increase in the fall, and then a little bit of a dip down in December, which makes sense, a little bit of a rise up over the early winter. But you'll note that green line is far below the red and blue lines, right? Which I think is an accurate visual representation of where we are, where we've been this year with contact hours. Is we are all working very hard. We are providing all the services we can in all the ways we can, and contact hours are substantially lower when you compare them to where they have been in previous years. So next, I wanted to just touch a little bit on what this means for funding. And the big picture message that we want you to hear today is just the reassurance that even though contact hours are significantly down, that does not mean that our funding for our statewide system is down. So here are funding amounts for the 2 previous fiscal years and the current fiscal year that we're in. And you'll note that for 1920, we had about 49 million in state funding and 5.6 million in federal funding. For 2021, we got a little bump in both of those. We went up to 51.7 million in state funding and 5.8 million in federal funding. And then those last bullets are where we are at for this current fiscal year that just started July 1 of this year. So again, we got a little bit of a bump. We're now at 52.2 million for state funding and 5.9 million for federal funding. And in addition, as I hope you are all aware, we got a one-time, a pretty significant bump that actually came. It's federal funding that then went to the governor's office, and the governor had some discretion about dividing it all out, and we got a chunk of it, about 9.8 million. For ABE. So in terms of funding for the current fiscal year, we are in a better place in terms of how much money we have for our statewide adult education system than we have ever been before. And then on the next slide, I just want to break that down for you a little bit about what that means about the contact hour rate. I know this is a kind of a key piece of data and information that we think about in terms of how our funding is distributed in our system. And so you'll note that over the last 3 years, that those contact hour rates have been slowly rising. And just a reminder for folks that for last fiscal year, we decided to reuse contact hours from before the pandemic. And then we did that again for this year. And that was a recommendation that came out of Literacy Action Network, and that we were able to implement with the finance staff at the Department of Education. It was really just a way to sort of try to hold everybody harmless and try to mitigate any potential churn and effects of the amount of change we've seen in contact hours, and keep that from affecting too much of our funding for this year. So we just want to reassure you that funding for this current year that we're in is in a solid place, despite the fact that the contact hour totals are significantly down. So that's really a sense of sort of where we have been. And I want to hand it off to Astrid at this point to think about where we're going now.
Thanks, Jodi, for helping us to look back. So yes, let's take a look at where we are now as a system. Right now, we are in a time of challenging and I think very exciting transformation as a system, expanding the educational options that we're offering to learners to meet a variety of learner needs. Go to the next slide. So last year, the program closures and the need to rapidly shift to remote learning models really pushed us forward as a state to quickly develop experience and expertise in serving students at a distance. We came together to share and build on what we had learned. So this year, programs are working to further refine these models and determine what the best balance of options is based on their particular student population. So we know that programs are offering one or more of these models, delivering instruction in person, fully at a distance, using asynchronous distance learning platforms, or remote instruction via video conferencing or phone or WhatsApp. They're using blended models, which, a combination of in-person learning supplemented by distance platforms or synchronous instruction. And we know that programs are also experimenting with high-flex models, allowing students to choose how they want to participate in class, whether they want to come in person or join at a distance, and more. I think we don't know what the models are that might emerge over this coming year. So it's a lot of exploring and experimentation. And we also know that we have a great deal of uncertainty around what this fall will bring. So programs are likely going to need to be prepared to shift between models as necessary. And we as a state team really want you to know that we're here to support you through all of these developments and changes, and to facilitate collaboration among programs throughout the year, because it's so important that we're sharing our lessons learned. We're such a collaborative field, and we're confident that we can not only get through this next year together, but thrive and really build some strong models to meet our learners' needs. Let's turn it over to Julie to talk about some career-focused options for our learners.
Thank you, Astrid. We're also exploring several programming models that go beyond the typical classroom environment. And one of those models is work-based learning. And work-based learning comes in many different forms, but basically it's tying together real-life work experiences with the academic and technical skills that people need to develop employability skills. So currently, one of the hot topics nationally is incumbent worker training. And an incumbent worker is someone who's already working with an employer, and they may have been there for up to like 6 months. And adult basic education would go and work with the employer to help train incumbent workers. And I am surprised to know that there are several adult basic education programs that are currently doing this across the state of Minnesota. So kudos to you. The other one that's getting a lot of national attention is pre-apprenticeships. And that is kind of similar to what our bridge programming used to look like, but with a little more work experience built into that. It is not as common in Minnesota as it is in other states. I think that's partly because a lot of the trade unions take on this work. And then another programming model that we're working on here in Minnesota is transitions to post-secondary. And two areas that are becoming popular are the co-requisite model. When you transition a learner into a two-year community college, the idea is to place them at the college level. So they aren't placed into developmental education, they're placed at the college level in courses where they're required to have a co-requisite adult basic education course or some other type of course that supports them in being successful in this particular college course. And then customized training with Minnesota State is also an area to look into if you're interested in this work. This is not new. Customized training in partnership with Adult Basic Education has been happening since 2005 and probably earlier. The difference is now Minnesota State is really working on getting learners credit for the training that they are receiving through customized training. It used to be hours-based training, but now they are being more flexible in allowing learners to, through credit for prior learning, get college level credit. So that's kind of several programming areas that are being explored currently and are needed because we're looking at a lot of earn and learn models where people can earn money while they're learning, because everyone needs to do that. Next slide, please. So you do have a support in doing this work, and there's two statewide teams that have been providing a lot of support. One of them are the regional transition coordinators. And the other one are the ABE representatives on the local workforce development boards. The regional transition coordinators have been doing a tremendous amount of work in connecting managers to post-secondary employers and career force. And the ABE reps are representing adult basic education to employers in the region and to our other partners in WIOA. So often this is very difficult work, and kudos to them. They do a fantastic job. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that funding for this type of work is can be difficult. Career Pathways is a big umbrella that it all falls under. So you can use regular ABE funding to support this. You can use regional transitions funds. And currently the Pathways to Prosperity competitive grant is opened so people can apply for that grant. It requires a partnership with ABE. So please consider partnering with your colleague or your community-based organizations, your post-secondary organizations, and other training providers and employers. And I think someone put the link to the Pathways to Prosperity RFP in there, so please take a look at it. Thank you. Next slide.
Thanks, Julie. Let's talk a little bit about the changes in our landscape. So first, we want to acknowledge that one of the more minor changes potentially at this moment are with our high Cs, the high school equivalency assessments. We have had a competition for which tests will be approved in Minnesota, and GED was approved and awarded a contract. Please note that there is another contract that is currently being negotiated with a second test vendor. So stay tuned. We'll announce any results once we are able. Another new development is that we will be developing a high Cs advisory group. Literacy Action Network and MDE will be forming this group sometime this fall, so stay tuned. We also have our second contact hour reporting working group that met over the course of 4 to 5 months. The purpose of this group is to recommend what contact hours should be reported by ABE programs for determining ABE funding in fiscal year 23. What programs will report in June of 2022. And that group really wanted to balance minimizing negative financial impact on individual programs statewide and also allowing for programs to grow. This group consisted of 11 members in different staffing roles and from a variety of programs and consortia across the state. And we thank those 11 members for the intense work that they are doing. And the working group, they did come with a recommendation. And that recommendation is that consortia will be submitting a regular table A, and that will be contact hours from May 1st, 2021 to April 30th of 2022. And also that table A1 that we've been submitting for the last couple of years. And then consortia contact hours for funding next year will be determined either by using that table A or we're using table A1, whichever table has a higher number of contact hours for that consortium. The Literacy Action Network Board has endorsed this recommendation, and the Minnesota Department of Education is the adult education team. We're working with approval from finance and the executive team to make sure that we can implement that recommendation. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jodi to talk about the sunset.
Thanks, Brad. I'm happy to talk about the sunset. So one other change that we want to be sure you are all aware of is that since May 1st of 2020, you all have had the option to be able to use an exemption in SID that allows you to enroll and serve new students and record their contact hours, even if you can't administer an NRS approved assessment, which means either the CASAs or the TABE or the BEST Plus. So that exemption is going to sunset over the upcoming program year. And the reason for that is because our Minnesota adult education system is part of the larger national federal adult education system. And in that system, there is still the accountability expectation that we are using those NRS assessments to pre and post test our learners and to demonstrate success and to show gains. So we need to transition back towards a point where we are using those NRS assessments as much as we can with our learners. So we want to encourage you at this point to be thinking about, to the extent that you've been using that COVID exemption for now, be thinking about how you will transition back to doing CASAs or TABE testing with students either in person, or there are some ways to do remote testing. We understand there are challenges to those and we acknowledge that. And we want to let you know that this exemption, this COVID EFL exemption that you currently have in SID will not be available for use with new students starting October 1st. There are some more details about this sunset that we aren't going to get into right now, but if you want more information about that, you can see the full statement and that explains the timeline and the different steps on our mnabe.org website. So I'll put that link in the chat here and I'll hand it back to you, Brad.
Thanks, Jodi. And briefly, let's talk about where we're going next. So our direction for the year is, let's explore. We're exploring the great unknown together. This path forward is not clear this year. Programs and staff need to be making many decisions on their own, but it is affirming, and we can get further if we work together and share resources, ideas, and issues along the way. That truly is the way that we continue to work in adult education, and that's what makes our field so affirming and so collaborative and so supportive. So how can we do that? How can we explore together? First, let's experiment and build sustainable, successful models locally and statewide that include the different models that Astrid was talking about: in-person, hybrid, high-flex, and distance education models. Let's share with each other information, resources, and support each other, both professionally and personally. And remember, we must focus on our learners. our current learners and the potential learners that are trying to increase recruitment and persistence, incorporating an equity lens and the learner voice in analyzing and deciding what we offer and how we do our work. So how will we do that? I'm going to turn it over to Astrid.
Yes, we want you to all know there are a variety of tools and supports available to you as we navigate this year together. Let's go to the next slide. We encourage you to tap into your support network. 3% of our state funding is used to fund a host of support network providers who are here to help you and your ABE programs. So you can see the list of providers here and the areas that they focus on. You can find out more about the activities that they're involved in, the resources that they offer, and the many events that are being held by checking our ABE PD calendar, as well as the MN ABE Connect newsletter that comes out every Tuesday. Thanks, Gail, for putting those links in the chat. We also encourage you to connect with your colleagues. You can do this via our new networking platform called Mighty Networks. It is free to you, paid for by Atlas. This is replacing our Schoology groups that we had used in the past. Just note that our Schoology courses will continue as usual. There's an article in the chat where you can find out more about Mighty Networks, how to join, get involved. It's a place where you can post questions, share resources, and connect with others across the state. And then finally, as Brad said, let's lean on each other. We have an amazing collaborative field. You will find, if you're new to the field, that help is just a phone call or a chat away. Everyone is always willing to share what they have learned, resources they've developed. We can come together, even at a distance, to participate in professional development and support each other.
Thanks, Astrid. And I just want to remind you, what maybe some of you are thinking, what will the adult education at MDE do? What is our role? And our role is to work with you, to support you. We want to hear from you. We want to make sure that we're providing leadership to the system with our support network and all of our ABE programs. We are here to advocate for adult education with our partners. And we're here to do what is best for our students, our staff, and our volunteers in our system, statewide. And how will we do that work? Well, one of the guiding ways that our team does our work is through our team's equity statement. We are committed to creating educational equity. We commit to recognizing the historical conditions and barriers that have prevented opportunity and success in learning for students based on their race, class, and other identities. We commit to working to dismantle the belief in a hierarchy of human value with a focus on racial equity. We commit to fostering positive and effective learning environments for all by eliminating institutional policies that uphold oppressive systems of power and privilege. And we commit to collaboratively creating a learning community within the adult education system that promotes opportunities for self-reflection, for growth and change. We see adult education as key to building educated, engaged, and just communities for all Minnesotans. So thank you. Thank you for joining us today. I apologize we've gone over. This will be an important year, and we really look forward to working with you. We hope you have a great Summer Institute, and we hope that the information and the presenters and the conversations through this conference help you prepare for the year ahead. Just please note that you will now need to log into the SCED app or the site throughout the conference to find your Zoom links for each session. So thank you all so much. Thank you for your ongoing work, and we look forward to a great year together.